Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about why we should read the Old Testament. So for those of you who do not know, the Christian Bible is divided into two major sections. The first section is called the Old Testament, and the second section is called the New Testament. And what really divides the two testaments is when Jesus enters the scene. So the New Testament is going to begin with the life and birth of Jesus Christ and continue on after his death and resurrection and ascension throughout Revelation. The Old Testament refers to everything that occurred before that point. So, because the life, death, resurrection, ascension, and return of Christ are so pivotal to Christianity, and all of that is focused on in the New Testament, sometimes Christians ask, well, then why do I need to read the Old Testament when Jesus isn't even there yet? Well, we're not going to talk about all the reasons why you need to read the Old Testament and why it's super important and why it is included in the Christian Bible. But to kind of just start the conversation, I am going to compare this to the movie Avengers Endgame. So if you have not seen the movie Avengers Endgame, you might not understand a lot of what I'm going to say after this, but also I do want to warn you that there are spoilers, so for some reason, if you're saving it and don't want the movie spoiled, please stop this video until you can watch it. Okay, so what in the world does the Bible have to do with Avengers Endgame? Well, first of all, Avengers Endgame is one of the latest installments in the entire Marvel cinematic experience. So it is not the first movie. There's actually been lots of movies starting with Iron Man, including Captain America, Thor, other Avengers movies, and have kind of culminated to this point in the movie Avengers Endgame and are going to continue on after this point. So, like the New Testament, there's also, in Avengers, there are movies that come before it. And so with Endgame coming out and now out on video, some people might be like, do I need to watch all the other movies before I can watch Endgame? And the simple answer is no, you don't have to watch the other movies to be able to watch Endgame. First of all, no one's gonna stop you. Like, do what you wanna do. But second of all, I just watched the movie this week and there is enough in Endgame for you to understand the premise of that movie itself. It explains what the characters are going through, who the characters are, how they're resolving the issues in the movie. And so you can sit there, having never seen another Marvel movie, and understand the basics of what's going on and enjoy the movie for its action, for its comedy, for its tearjerker moments, all of that, even if you've never seen Iron Man, even if you've never seen Thor. So that is like the New Testament in the Bible. You can enter into the book of Matthew that starts the New Testament without having ever read the Old Testament and understand the New Testament to a certain extent. You might need a second to really catch your bearings. Endgame starts off and they jump you right into the plot, and there is some explanation on the way, but it might take you a minute to really catch up with what quite is going on. The New Testament's going to be the same way. You're going to start with a genealogy in Matthew, and you might be like, who are these people? Why am I reading this long list of names? But as you keep going, you'll start to understand how you're talking about the significance of the birth of a kid named Jesus and his family and all the adventures of his life afterwards. So it might take you a second, but you can read the New Testament and understand the story that it's telling you. Much like you can go see Avengers Endgame and understand the story that it is trying to tell you. But as most fans of the Marvel Universe will tell you, you probably shouldn't watch Avengers Endgame before seeing the other movies. And there's a couple of reasons. We're just going to talk about 3 reasons why you should do this. And one is because the other movies are great movies. There are numerous movies of different characters and the lives that they lived and the problems that they've gone through, and there's moment of comedy, there's moment of greatness, there are ones that get your heart beating and excitement, and teach you different things about this world. Well, the Old Testament has that too. The Old Testament has amazing books, amazing stories that can reveal more about who God is and what He's done in this universe and who He created you to be and how He's working in your life and His plan, ultimate plan for humanity. So to skip over them would be to miss out on something amazing. So that's one reason why to read the Old Testament. Two, going back to Endgame, if you watch Endgame and you've never seen the other movies, you're gonna miss some stuff. You're still gonna get the basic plot, you're still gonna get the basic story, you'll laugh some, you'll get excited at some points, you'll cheer at the end, but there's a lot of little things, sometimes they're referred to as Easter eggs, that are references to past movies that you're not gonna get the significance of if you've never seen them. One of my favorite examples is when Captain America hears the phrase, "on your left." If you've seen that phrase in other Captain America movies, you understand the significance of that moment. It's not just that his buddies are showing up in battle and they're letting him know, hey, we're here, we're on your left. If you've only seen Endgame, that might be all you're thinking about. But no, it's actually a reference to an earlier movie and a joke that has been played throughout the Marvel experience. And so you miss that if you've only seen Endgame. Much like if you're reading the New Testament and you hear these references to Son of David and people crying out to Jesus and saying, you are the Son of David. If you've only read the New Testament, you might not understand what that means. You might not understand who David is. You might not understand what it means to be a son of David and all the deep theology connected to that. In the Avengers, you won't get references to why Tony's daughter liking cheeseburgers is a big deal. You might think it's just a funny line, but if you've seen Iron Man, you know that it's a connection to her father. If you're reading the beginning of the Old Testament and see a reference to Jesus being born in Bethlehem, you might just think, oh, interesting fact. You might not know that that has a rich history and theological significance behind it. Or when Thor gets his hammer back and he screams the line, I am worthy. That is a huge thing that you might not understand, just like you might not understand Jesus saying in John 8 that he is I am. You might think that seems grammatically incorrect or he didn't finish his sentence. You might not understand the weight of the fact that he was calling himself by the name of the one true God. So by not reading the Old Testament, you're going to miss out of so much more that is happening in the New Testament. You're going to not understand the references. You're not going to understand the significance of some of these, what seem like really short, insignificant phrases or facts. And then finally, if you only watch Endgame or if you only read the New Testament, you're going to miss the buildup. Endgame is a great example of a movie that builds upon past movie to bring you to this great climax that I'm gonna admit, I cried a lot during watching that battle scene in Endgame because it was just so amazing, all the different elements that they were bringing together and all the people were finally coming together to fight the battle together. I absolutely loved it, and I understood what was going on because I knew what it meant to see Falcon there, to see Black Panther there, to see how Captain Marvel is working together with Pepper and all of these different things. And so it had been building not just for me watching numerous movies in a row, but I remember going to see Iron Man in theaters. I remember watching these movies coming out one after another and falling in love with these characters and seeing the battles that they fought and all that they've been through and how it had brought them to this moment and the significance of then Captain America saying, Avengers assemble. And if you read the Old Testament and you understand how the Bible works together and how these books and these characters are people that have lived for years and how God has been working in the family of Abraham, in the nation of Israel, in all of these people working year after year, century after century, revealing himself, showing his plan, and then culminating into this person of Jesus Christ, who's declaring, I am, and has come and done these amazing things in the world. And then to see him on the cross and knowing everything that's happened since Genesis 1, everything that's happened since Genesis 3, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the triumph, all of the waiting, all of the promises, and then for him to be on that cross and say, it is finished. If you just read the Old Testament, that's amazing still. To know what Jesus is accomplishing on the cross, what he's accomplishing with his resurrection, is incredible. But it is so much more when you know the story from the beginning. From all of the Old Testament, all of the waiting, all of the tears, all of the suffering, all finally brought to this moment, and how we're looking forward to that final moment. And that is not even, it's finished, but it's coming even more. Guys, I know this might seem silly. I'm comparing the Bible to the movie Avengers Endgame. And it's not a perfect analogy. Like, it does break down at points, and it doesn't even completely address all of the reasons why to read the Old Testament. But I hope that this conversation can help you think through a little bit more. That the Old Testament is not some boring, outdated book that you sometimes go back to, that you read because you know you're supposed to, or it's in your Bible plan, but is actually a very important part of God's redemptive story. It's words that he gave us, that he blessed us with and wants us to use to grow, to learn about him, and to wield as a sword as we fight evil in this world. I'm super passionate about the Old Testament. I love the Old Testament. I think the stories are great, if you can't tell. So I hope this video has helped you just start that process of thinking through of what the Old Testament is and why it really is important for us to read it and enjoy it and love it.